Hello and welcome back to the channel. Followers of this channel will be aware that my last project was constructing the Emperor of Mankind in diorama form. That project took over 2 years to complete and still technically isn't 100% finished, but like the ambitious hobbyist that I am, I've decided to start a new diorama. The way I see it is that the Imperium has many interesting factions and sub-factions, which is more than enough for me to choose from when it comes to starting a new project. Since I have already produced a Terran-based diorama in the form of the Emperor of Mankind on the Golden Throne, my next thoughts immediately went to Mars and that of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Along with the lore, there's also a plethora of drawings and artwork to take inspiration from. Insert John Blanche Grimdark here. Starting off with this diorama, I didn't really make much of a plan in terms of what I wanted it to look like. The process started out with a wooden backboard from an A3 art frame and a bunch of pieces from my scenery box. After playing around with some ideas, I came up with a loose design and started to add to it. Because I'm a psychopath and the fact I had some old green stuff to use up, I decided that cables would feature prominently throughout the diorama. I get asked quite frequently what I use to make my cables with, and the answer is a nifty cable roller from Green Stuff World. It's a really handy piece of kit, and I wouldn't even attempt to roll this many cables without one. Another useful application for the roller is that you can use the back of them to roll smooth cables, which really helps provide some variety. I did end up running out of green stuff fairly quickly. Who would have thought? But swiftly ordered a new batch to continue working with. The newly ordered green stuff was enjoyable to work with compared to my 2-year-old batch, which had started to become dry and lumpy. After rolling cables for what seemed like an eternity, I started working on a base for the diorama. I measured and cut a suitable piece of marine ply to serve as the floor and provide a sturdy base. On top of this base, I started to add various pieces of scenery, mainly from the Warhammer Conquest subscription. Firstly, I used some of the plastic walkway pieces to act as a floor. I assembled them into a shape that I felt would look the best and provide me with enough space to add the various miniatures I intend to use. It's also worth noting that I've used some of the walkway arches to hold up some raised platforms, and also half of a hemotrope reactor as a centerpiece for the back wall. These fit in very well and give the impression that this particular room within the Forge world is generating power that keeps the machinery going and runs throughout the multitude of cables. I deliberately chose to go a bit overboard with some of the cables. I want to give the impression that this Forge world is so old that not even the tech priests know what some of the cables do, or where they feed power to. I made use of some of the larger scenic pipes that Games Workshop produces. I use these to represent the more important aspects of some of the ancient machinery that carries power throughout the Martian Forge world. Some of the bits that I've pillaged from a void shield generator are the most integral to the diorama. These include the Adeptus Mechanicus badge and ornate supports that help frame the piece. As you can probably tell, I've destroyed quite a few Games Workshop kits to get the small pieces that I need, so fingers crossed that it's worth it in the end. For a man with an unhealthy amount of Warhammer miniatures, I've found that I have very few Adeptus Mechanicus miniatures and bits in my collection. This has led to me using various bits and pieces that were left over from my Emperor of Mankind diorama. These were mainly little pieces such as screens and power outlets, and other wall gubbins. If you haven't seen my Emperor of Mankind project videos, they're available to watch on my channel. As I'm not what you would consider a green stuff master, there are some areas around the build where some of the cables do not fully connect to their endpoint. To fill in the gaps, I've used a healthy smattering of astrogranite texture paint. This will help cover up any unsightly gaps and add the rusted and decrepit feel that I want to represent. For areas where I don't feel it looks rusty enough, I have also gone in and added a couple of coats of typhus corrosion. Once I was happy that the framework of the diorama was complete and adequately grimdark enough, it was time to move on to undercoating the miniature. I actually undercoated this project using 2 different Citadel spray paints. I started with an overall coat of Chaos Black. This would help by getting right into the crevices and providing me with a good base colour to work up from. Once the Chaos Black had dried, I went over it with a coat of Citadel Lead Belcher. With the second coat of paint, I was careful not to completely coat the whole miniature, as I wanted some of the Chaos Black to remain visible to provide more depth. From this stage, the next step will be adding a couple of washes, some dry brushing, and some weathering. I'm really looking forward to the painting side of things, but I have a feeling it's probably going to take twice the amount of time that I expect it to. Something that I'm very much looking forward to trying is the dirty down rust effect that has been making the rounds all over social media. This paint looks as though it'll be able to achieve an effect that my weathering powders can't, so I'm interested in experimenting with it. As usual with my dioramas, I'll be aiming for a fairly grimdark style with some detailed elements. I really like the environments within the 40k setting to look bleak and rusted with lots of weathering, but for some of the miniatures to have more detail and definition. For everyone asking if I'm going to paint each cable a different colour, the answer is no, because I don't completely hate myself. I'm still giving some thought towards the miniatures that are going to be featured on this diorama. I know for a fact that Belisarius' Call is going to be front and centre, so it's just a case of identifying the different tech priests and mechanicum models that are going to accompany him. There's a loose plan in place for a collaborative miniature that might make an appearance within the diorama, but I'll have more information on that in the future. So that all being said, let's take a little look at the diorama so far. As you can see, we've probably reached about the quarter-way mark, and there's still a lot left to be done. If you want to keep up to date with the project, you can always head over to my Instagram, @ImperiumNihilus, for more regular updates. We recently reached 5,000 followers, so there's currently a giveaway box of Adeptus Custodes. All the information about the giveaway is available over on my Instagram post. You can also like and subscribe if you want to follow over here on YouTube too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Next video. Damn it, I won't see you. Goodbye. After playing around with some ideas, I came up with a loose design, and Followers of this channel will be aware of my last project, which was... Wait a sec, I'm losing it.